Welcome to RPG Fortress. My name is Richard, and this is not quite a classic, the show where we look back at almost classic games. You know, the Final Fantasy V's, Dark Souls 2s, and Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Today, we are talking about a bizarre action RPG from Enix that some of you will know from the SNES, but was actually kind of a remake of a game that was on the NEC PC 9800. Huh? Cue the intro. E.V.O. Search for Eden is an action RPG released by Enix in 1992 in Japan for the Super Famicom and 1993 in North America for the Super Nintendo. Is it E.V.O. or is it E.V.O? I've always said E.V.O, so I'm just gonna go with that. The game combines side-scrolling action platforming, leveling mechanics, and creature evolution. Your quest is to get with Gaia sexually. This is after you spend several billion years eating every living creature that you can find and transforming into something not even remotely humanoid. It's all pretty unique, but the game is actually a weird kind of remake of an earlier game that was also balls out unique. Developed in 1990 by Almanic Corporation for Enix, 46 Okunin Monogatari, the Shinkaron, the 4.6 billion year story, The Theory of Evolution, is a computer role-playing game for the Japan-only NEC PC 9800. The game is a by-the-books Dragon Quest-influenced CRPG, but you play as a tiny life form that slowly evolves into a fish, then a frog, and then a dinosaur, and then, like, outer space dino Jesus. The game was only released in Japan, so I haven't been able to play it, and I only know a little bit of the game and story. There is an English patch, but I haven't gotten into it. Maybe we'll see it someday. Almanic eventually opted to mostly remake / kinda start from scratch to bring the game to the SNES and Super Famicom. It's pretty bizarre. The two games are almost completely different, save for the general idea and some of the musical cues. The game went from a standard turn-based RPG to an action platformer. Just totally wild. So our story begins 4.6 billion years ago with the birth of Gaia. Her father, the sun, explains to her that through a not quite scientific but fantastical version of the theory of evolution, a life form will be born, and it's up to her to guide its growth until it becomes a strong enough creature for her to partner with. Kicking off this multi-billion year story of grooming, you literally make a splash as you're dropped into Chapter 1. Chapter 1 sees you start the game as a chubby, adorable little fish in a big bad ocean where everything wants you dead. But you also want them dead because you need to eat other creatures to get E.V.O points to level up. Well, kinda. It's not really leveling up. When you kill an enemy, they usually drop a delicious floating hunk of meat on bone. When you consume the meat, you get a stack of E.V.O points, and you also get a little bit of healing. Sometimes you find flashing meat that gives you an obscene amount of E.V.O points and a little better healing. Your collected E.V.O points can be spent in the evolution menu to modify your various animal body parts. Evolve your jaws to increase your damage dealt, evolve the size of your body to increase your hit points, evolve armor to increase your defense, evolve fins to move faster in water. It's an incredibly fun system that provides loads of replayability. As you continue to explore the caves of this oceanic world, you'll also come across a number of crystals that you can eat for various power-ups. Blue crystals give you a big stack of E.V.O points, red crystals give you the ability to evolve into a unique creature, which you can save in your evolution log for later, green crystals which allow you to choose a creature from your evolution log to temporarily transform into, and finally yellow crystals that give you evolution tips. Some creatures on your journey will simply want to speak to you. Some are hostile, some are friendly. It's up to you if you want to eat the peaceful animals. Just keep in mind, sometimes you need to face the consequences of your actions. As you move across the map exploring caves and open stretches of ocean, you hear the wildlife constantly talking about getting stronger in this brave new world and how only the most powerful will survive. Sucks to be the cucumbers, I guess. Eventually you will meet the Karasalak, a giant, angry, and very fast shark. He'll talk shit for a bit, telling you that the sea is the only real domain for the strong. He will then bash you into dust. Soggy, salty, underwater dust. Seriously, for a first boss, this guy fucks hard. The trick is to get him to rush at you, and then you dodge out of the way so that he crashes face first into the rock face. Then you can bite his ass, and eventually he will die. There are some plants lining the cavern floor that you can eat for a bit of health, but they provide you an absolute pittance compared to the damage he causes. So this leads us on to the game's healing exploit. It's been argued back and forth on the internet whether this is an exploit or intentional. Unlike most RPGs, E.V.O does not have any items and thusly, no healing items. Instead, as mentioned, you can heal by eating meat from hostile creatures, and also from eating peaceful creatures and plants. But during a boss fight, there is usually no random enemies to kill and eat, and there are usually only a few, if any, peaceful creatures or plants to eat. To combat this, you can evolve a horn. If you evolve a horn, you will have all of your HP restored. You can also, quote-unquote, unevolve your horn to restore all of your HP as well. So the trick is to save up some E.V.O points for a boss, and then evolve and unevolve the cheapest horn you can to keep your HP up. Is this exploitative? I don't know. Is it? I always tend to overgrind so I can get the best body parts, so I usually have loads of points saved up anyway. So yeah, horns up. Sorry. After you kill and eat Karasalak's delicious surimi sticks, the peaceful plants start to generate oxygen, leading to a brave new world on land. You reach the coast of Pange, where you automatically evolve legs. Gaia then tells you it's time to move forward into the age of amphibians and evolves you into a fat little salamander thing before opening a door through time. She tells you how cool walking around is, and you proceed to Chapter 2. Chapter 2 starts off with you immediately lamenting your weak, useless legs. You are slow and your jump is minimal. From here on, the world map has a lot more to explore, including some forks and also some optional locales. The new land animals chit-chat about how land-based animals are the strongest, while the remaining ocean-based creatures talk about how the ocean is the real place to be. The first couple areas of Chapter 2 are pretty disparate when it comes to animals worth farming, but when you get to the land of the Bull Icostega, you should spend a bit of time killing the Icostega and leveling up your jaws and body, cause things are gonna get tough soon. While traveling across the sun-bleached plains, you will eventually meet the boss of the Icostega, named Dibustega. He is very large and very angry, and he wants to fight you. He's not nearly as tough as the Karasalak, but his body slams and his puke attacks can both stun lock you. In fact, a lot of the attacks in this game can stun lock you. Your invincibility frames after getting hit are practically non-existent. Anyway, just keep on punishing him and evolving horns as needed, and he will go down, giving you a huge pile of meat. You then speak to the elder of the Icostega, and he thanks you for dispatching Dibustega. It turns out that the reason why the world is so barren is due to a host of insects trying to take over. And from here on, you will fight a lot of insects. Get ready for super fast cockroaches that will charge you in pairs, high-flying wasps, bouncing blue worms, and then the leaders of the insects themselves. You'll eventually encounter the King Bee. He denounces the amphibians and admits to the insects over-consuming the plant life of the new world. After a brief discussion, he attacks you. His worst attack is when he machine guns stingers at you and then stun locks you in place. He'll then repeatedly dive bomb you for huge amounts of damage. It's really hard to get on top of him as he is constantly flying around. Dashing past his stingers and then turning around, dashing and jumping at him is really the only way to get to him. Evolve your horn as needed and keep pushing him and you will eventually win. After eventually dispatching the King Bee, you can continue exploring across this new land. These northern lands are extremely barren and basically one huge desert. Those insects have really destroyed this part of the world. As you travel, you'll continue fighting insects and amphibians, but you'll also meet some early reptiles. These reptiles tell you that they are the strongest creatures and that the insects and plants are weak. And yeah, these Dinosaurs are pretty tough. At this stage, it's a good idea to grind out some E.V.O points because you have an incredibly tough boss battle coming up. The next boss is Queen Bee, the wife to King Bee and one of the toughest fights in the game. Her attacks are similar to her husband's, her main attacks being a machine gun stinger attack followed by a dive attack. The King Bee strategy of dash, jump, and bite is still the way to go, but unlike King Bee, she can stop you by biting you when you get close to her. There isn't a real strategy to defeat her, just bite her when you can and evolve horns as needed. With some determination, you can best the queen. After you beat her and devour her delicious honeycombs, you're told that the plants will be able to regrow and thrive in this new land where the insects have been humbled. You're then turned into a dinosaur, hell yes, before another time warp is opened. Before you're dumped into the age of the dinosaurs, Gaia comments on something that King Bee mentioned. Something about crystals that make your body larger and stronger. She then tells you how fucking sweet dinosaurs are and sends you on to Chapter 3, The Age of the Dinosaurs. You're once again in a new body. This new dinosaur body is pretty weak. Not as shabby as the default amphibian body, but you're still a walking meal for a stronger animal. Before you leave the first area of this new world, you hear some mysterious whispers talking about some place called Mount Brave and someone named the Chosen One. RPG tropes. You're now out on the world map and it looks great. Lots of cool new places like ponds, jungles, a volcano, a very tall mountain that only someone who is brave would climb, and much, much more. As you move forward, you will discover that there are still some amphibians inhabiting this strange new world, but damn are they weak. The prime frogs and salamanders are absolute pushovers. At this stage, you've probably noticed that the meat is not very good so far. You'll go through half a dozen locales and have less than 100 evolution points. Further compounding this, your evolution options are all really expensive. I'd recommend ignoring fights for now and simply try to get through stages alive. Just avoid combat as best as you can because just about everything here will tear your soul apart. After long journeying, you will make it to an area full of stegosauruses. They have a fair amount of HP, but they're worth 80 E.V.O points. Grind them until you can get some new jaws, and then really grind them with those new jaws so that you can evolve your pudgy frame into something a bit more intimidating. This form has some great options for evolution. You can evolve between 2 and 4 legs, along with extending and shortening your neck, along with all of the other options like jaws, body size, etc. Once you're done grinding, move forward and you'll eventually encounter young Cyrosaurus being bullied by some prime frogs. Join in on the bullying to earn a quick game over. Instead of infanticide, let the child escape and push forward. You'll now meet your next boss, a giant prime frog that constantly live births smaller frogs directly from its flesh like some sort of Cronenberg nightmare. It's not the hardest boss, but its cohorts can easily overpower, stun lock, and kill you. You might not have a lot of E.V.O points to evolve horns and heal, so it's best to proceed with caution against this guy. The next place of note you'll want to keep your eyes open for is an area of ocean where you need to enter the water. Don't worry though, you will automatically evolve into a sea creature when you enter the water. But there are some tough enemies here. The plesiosaurs and bottom-dwelling shellfish hit really hard. But if you can kill either of them, you will get 100 from the plesiosaurs and a whopping 500 from the shellfish. Needless to say, this is a great spot to level up. And now you're incredibly strong. And it's time to throw all those upgrades in the trash. Welcome to Mount Brave. You arrive at the elusive mountain and it's annoying AF. There are pterosaurs here that will constantly dive bomb you, and if they grab you, they will fly you back to the beginning of the stage. Eventually, you'll manage to make it to the tallest peak in the area. Slowly climbing up the side of the mountainside, you'll reach the peak, where you will hear more whispers from the sky. They welcome you for arriving at the peak and suggest bravely leaping from the peak into the sky. If you do, you are rewarded by evolving into a bird, and you are once again turned into a chubby and weak new form. Now, evolving into a bird is a choice that you shouldn't take lightly. Evolving into a bird will obviously give you the ability to fly. You can then use this ability to access a number of areas that you normally wouldn't be able to do so. But you'll be giving up your dinosaur body, which is potentially maxed out from grinding underwater creatures. I'd say yes, go for it, just get ready to grind up from baby form once again. After spending some time evolving your new bird form, you can now push forward, starting with the snow-capped volcano, an area you couldn't reach without wings. Here you'll meet a new animal type, mammals. They are small and weak, and you can easily defeat them. Next up is a wild hidden area. By now you've undoubtedly noticed the cloud floating around in the sky above the map. If you time it right when the cloud is over your head, you can actually fly up into the clouds to access a new area. You'll find yourself in a giant and violent storm cloud. Flying around here will let you find several blue crystals and a red crystal that will let you transform into a fucking dragon. Eventually, the clouds will open up into blue skies. Keep flying upwards into low orbit and you will be able to find more secrets inside floating structures. You can find a blue crystal worth 9,999 E.V.O points, a red crystal that will transform you into a gargoyle, a green crystal, and an alien using a laser gun to increase the intelligence of a pterodon. Whoa. By now you should be suitably strong enough to engage the next group of areas that are home to the Tyrosaurs. Aggressive, fast, and super strong reptiles that really don't like you very much. You then get to watch the extinction of the dinosaurs, and boy is it sad. After some dialogue, Gaia introduces you to the rise of mammals, the Ice Age. You start the Ice Age on the iced coast, retaining your reptile form, either your land or bird-based form, whatever you chose to move forward with. Almost the entire map is covered in ice and snow, hard going for a cold-blooded reptile or bird. Shortly into your travels, you'll discover the Cave of Judgment. Here, the specters of long-lost dinosaurs exist with no fear of death. As you press forward through the cave, you are given an important choice: to stay as you are, a land dinosaur or bird, or evolve into a mammal. Both choices have ups and downs. Staying as your previous form means you begin the area super strong, and will be able to save up some E.V.O points to heal during the many difficult boss fights to come. Evolving into a mammal means that you are literally turned into a kitten and need to grind from scratch in a very hostile new world. But turning into a mammal gives you lots of incredible choices for evolution, including some unique forms later on. Whichever form you choose, push forward through the ice and snow from the midnight sun where the hot springs blow, hammer of the gods, etc., and you will conquer many lowly mammals, struggling dinosaurs, weakling amphibians, and even some birds. Eventually, you'll meet the Mammoth Brothers. They're not particularly tough if you have good jaws and a strong body, but their bubble attack can stun lock you hard and fast. After defeating them, the Mammoth Gal warns you of the Yeti. Apparently, this bipedal beast has harnessed the powers of the crystal to become much stronger. Meanwhile, if you visit the volcano in Africa, you will encounter a strange obelisk, get kidnapped by a pterosaur, and dropped into a sky castle ruled by birdmen. Yeah, it's a lot. Exploring Fort Birdman is a bit of a nightmare. You have a load of different enemies that engage you, including flying birdmen with spears, birdmen riding triceratops, larger, stronger birdmen with sabers, and you also have to deal with the dungeon being a maze with a load of teleportation devices. As a kid, this area really wrecked me. I got lost continuously. But as an adult in the internet age, I have game facts and this place can kiss my ass. You will shortly encounter and engage the Bird King, a powerful birdman wizard who moves fast and hits hard. Before battle, he explains that a being from outer space helped evolve the Birdmen with the power of crystals. He then tries to murder you. Keep leaping and biting and growing horns as needed until he dies. The fort then explodes and you're free to continue your journey. After a short trek, you're engaged by the Yeti and he wants to destroy you. Like I said, boss fights in this place are relentless. He tells you that he's grown strong from the power of the crystals, and by this point, you can probably piece together that the crystals have been influencing evolution on Earth for billions of years. But it's no time for story. The Yeti is going to beat your ass. His main attack is a jumping punch that he strings back to back to back. Prepare to be stun locked a lot. After you squeak past the Yeti, you'll immediately get to fight his very large, very angry wife. Yeti Mom is even harder than Yeti. Instead of jumping punches, she will get in close and clap you between her hands. And she will do this a lot, keeping you stun locked for fucking ever. She also has an icy breath that can stun lock you. Try to stay airborne as much as you can and grow horns whenever you can. She'll eventually fall, and Yeti Jr. comes out to lament the death of his parents. Gaia then appears and despairs that the world is a brutal place. She also comments on the presence of the crystals and wonders who it is that is using them for evil. R.I.P. Dinos, this is the new world of mammals, and eventually, man. Chapter 5, Early Man, is the final chapter of E.V.O, Search for Eden. You'll start on the world map, which now greatly resembles our own current day map. After moving forward through the stages, you will eventually hear chatter that some creatures in this era use tools, and to be careful around them because they can be violent, just like a mosh pit during the opening riffs of Enema. Anyway, speaking of creatures with their tools, make sure you get a guide because evolving into a human is a bit crazy. You only get a handful of hints on how to become a hairless ape, and the pretty bad translation doesn't help. You basically have to evolve into a rabbit, and from there, just keep evolving further. You'll eventually go through some ape-like stages, and eventually, you'll get a club. Keep going and you will eventually become a human with an axe and clothing and no ability to evolve further. So this is where you get to make a decision. Keep your current form, mammal, dinosaur, bird, or become a human. The human is pretty sturdy and its axe is strong enough, but you can't evolve horns, so you can't heal. And let me tell you, the end boss without healing fucking sucks. Like really, it fucking sucks. So make your decision on what you want to do. Become a human and lose your healing ability, or stay as a lesser beast and keep your ability to heal. Whatever choice you make, keep pushing through the stages. You'll eventually get more chatter about a silver disc in the sky. The mystery of the crystals is close to being solved. By caterpillars rolling around in the dirt. Next up is an encounter with the monkey humans, apes with human sentience. So much sentience that they built an incredibly confusing fortress called, well, it's called Cave of Monkey Human. Moving through the cave also sucks. Sucks hard. It's huge, confusing, and the enemies here will decimate you. Some of the monkey humans will quickly throw stones at you, all the while others will hurl huge boulders at you. Every screen is basically going to involve you getting injured. Getting stun locked doesn't help. Moving around is just such a fucking chore here. When you finally get to the end of the cave, you encounter another Yeti. He's going to teach you a lesson for killing the Yeti and Mother Yeti millions of years ago? What the fuck? Anyway, he's not the worst boss to fight, but he can stun lock and kill you fast with his rapid boxing punches. Kill him and move on. Time to save the whales, I guess. Gaia asks you to stop some violent creatures who are pressing the whales. No, not humans, but some sort of weird intelligent aquatic creatures called rogons. They ride sharks. They have spears. They also have a huge maze dungeon like the monkey humans. And Kurlasaks are regular enemies now. Holy cow. After a harrowed trudge through the underwater labyrinth, you get to fight some ugly creature from the Black Lagoon looking dude. After killing him, you meet the Whale King. He thanks you for your deeds and asks you about the crystals. All the while his dolphin crew dances in the background. Just weird. Also, this is the only area of the game where you can evolve into a mermaid. Leaving reverts you back to your previous form. Neat. You can now travel to Africa and get your ass kicked by a new queen bee. She tells you that someone in the north is using crystals to evolve them once again into bigger forms. Her patterns are similar to the previous queen bee fight, but this one hits a lot harder. After you prevail, you know your next move. To head north and meet this dude who's been using crystals to evolve Earth's creatures into violent assholes. After a few stages fighting various beasts like T-Rexes, you come across the entrance to Eden. Unfortunately, a huge man-beast called the Cro-Magnon? Seriously, the proper animal names in this game have totally been butchered to hell and back. Anyway, this guy doesn't fuck around. He's fast, powerful, and has a shitload of moves. He can hop around smashing into you, and he can swing his giant club to knock you around. Adding insult to injury, he can actually baseball club you back to the world map. Good grief. Eventually, you'll beat him to little fanfare, but now you can enter the final dungeon. Stop me if you've heard this one, but this dungeon is a huge labyrinth full of confusing passages and annoyingly powerful enemies. Meet the Dino People, crystal-evolved sentient dinosaur men who love to jump kick and Hadoken you before running away. They are super annoying, and some of the Hadokens turn into bouncing blobs. Seriously, the nonsense you have to put up with in this place is off the charts. After a long and confusing journey through the Dino People's cavern, you come to a room where there are several pots. One of the Dino People exclaims that the pot with the crystal is exploding, and in a ladder of light, you are carried up into a space cave of shuddering, shambling space meat. Oh, gross. Even grosser is the giant trembling space slug full of shining orbs who introduces himself as Bolbox, the strongest creature on Earth. He tells you that he evolved into a human from the crystal he got from a dino person. Anyway, he's not a human, is he? He's a giant space slug. Shake your head at the bad translation and get ready to fight. He says Gaia is his and he will enter Eden. He then attacks. Hey, stop me if you've heard this before. Yes, I already did this joke. This is an end boss with multiple forms. Well, kinda. During the fight, he will randomly spit out orbs that are inside of his body. Each of these orbs does something different. The yellow orb turns into a powerful Parasaurolophus with a powerful attack that will hit you wherever you are on screen. The green orb evolves into a giant flying fish that flies around biting at you. The teal orb turns into delicious flashing meat. The pink orb turns into an angry birdman with a saber. The blue orb turns into a tiny jellyfish that turns into a large jellyfish. The white orb turns into a tiny amphibian that immediately runs away. The red-scaled orb turns into a giant angry cockroach. The yellow and black orb turns into a giant puking amphibian. And all the while you are dealing with this crap, his head is bobbing around bashing you like a giant hammer-faced idiot. I'm gonna level with you. This boss fucking sucks. He has a majillion hit points, and most of his orbs are terrible to deal with. Some of the creatures drop meat, so maybe this boss can be a pushover if you practice enough, but don't do that to yourself. Just abuse the horn exploit and keep at him until he's dead. After you defeat Bolbox, Gaia shows up and congratulates you on your success. She calls you forth to Eden, where she continues to pour on the platitudes. The scene fades out and then fades in to Mars, where the aliens discuss their unsuccessful attempt to change the course of evolution on Earth. They lament interfering with natural selection before deciding to watch over Earth from the shadows. The sun shows up to congratulate you and gives you permission to bang his daughter. And that's E.V.O. Search for Eden. What a fucking weird game. They literally don't make them like this anymore. The gameplay is weird, the fantastical take on evolution is fun, the gameplay is kinda hit and miss a lot of the time, some of the bosses are too hard, grinding from scratch in almost every chapter can get old, and the characters are bizarre but captivating. The PC 9800 game is even crazier than this. E.V.O. is a great game with some big faults, but I think it sits well as an almost classic. It doesn't sit next to Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, but between the evolution system, the weird setting, and the bright colorful visuals, I think we're better off having this game as part of the Super Nintendo's library. What did you think of E.V.O. Search for Eden? Do you say E.V.O? Do you say E.V.O? Do you enjoy evolving a dorsal fin to soak up the sun's warmth? Leave a comment below. If you also enjoy my output, please give us a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and get a tattoo and then post that tattoo online for us all to look at. I've been Richard for RPG Fortress, and we'll see you next time.